Nelson Mandela to be released tomorrow, and as you might expect, that is a moment that this country will not soon forget.
On the 27th of April, 1994, South African history was made. The end of a 45-year horrific regime. The South African experiment to radically change government structure and social cohesion in a country. The 1994 ANC manifesto was inspiring and was a beautiful look into what the post-apartheid South Africa could look like. A promise for a better future, for equal opportunity, for jobs for every South African, basic rights to water, electricity, clinics, and most importantly, a culture of learning, education. And almost 30 years later, we're really far away from that future. Poverty, unemployment, a failing medical system and a failing education system, a lack of water and electricity. And to add a little bit of perspective, the country is in a much better place than it would have been if a person like Nelson Mandela didn't step in to correct the path. Unfortunately, his successors couldn't carry the same responsibility. And now it's time for the next chapter of the South African experiment. And it's a chapter for the youth, for those who didn't grow up during apartheid, in a world where you go to school with people of all different races, religions, and backgrounds, with different identities and views on the world, but an understanding that we're all South African and we're all part of one of the most amazing countries in the world. I think it's clear that our country is not heading in the right direction, and this time between the end of apartheid and the beginning of a new South African structure is here. And I think we have an amazing opportunity.
We've got a deal. Very happy to announce formally that the parties have agreed on a multi-party charter for South Africa, and that we can formally announce pre-election coalition partnership. It's a historical moment for South Africa. This is the first in the modern era of South Africa.
We have 8 parties willing to work together, putting their differences aside for the future of South Africa. And for me, that's the goal. To have people representing every type of ethnicity and culture in South Africa working together for the betterment of South Africa. It changes politics forever. And I think that's a pretty exciting opportunity, especially for the South African youth. In the space of 30 years, we have moved from almost zero political collaboration to a point where 8 parties with completely different views and goals are working together for the betterment of South Africa and its future. The focus is on the success of the country, irregardless of who you are. And that is what I believe Mandela wanted for this country. And like I said, I think it's time for the youth to pick up the mantle. The apartheid struggle was for our generation, for us to grow up in a world where we didn't have to worry about what race you were, what identity you had, what religion you were, or where you came from. And that's something we need to stand up for, something we shouldn't take for granted, and something that we should actively work towards. I read a really interesting stat the other day, that there are 14 million South Africans under the age of 35 who are unregistered to vote. And of those who are registered, not many turn out on voting day. And what's even crazier is that the ANC only got 10 million votes in the last election. So for anyone that thinks my vote doesn't count, just think again. The decline of our country affects us the most. We will be the most impacted generation because of it. It impacts our future, the future for our children, which I know is a scary thought. Not everyone can immigrate to another country and leave the South African problems behind. And to be more honest, I don't think a lot of people want that. For myself, I would love to live in South Africa for the rest of my life. I think it's a truly beautiful country, and I don't think many other places can match it. So we need to stand up for it. The fighting's been done. Like I said, we now need to carry the mantle that was left for us. It's time for us to take a bit of responsibility and not focus on the doom and gloom of where our country is, but understand that the decisions we make can change the trajectory of our country for the better, for the best, for all of our futures. So for those who grew up in a classroom with people of all different races and religions, to those of us who watched the 2007 World Cup win and saw Simpiwe Shabalala score the opening goal of the 2010 World Cup, for those of us who saw Chad Leclos and Wade van Niekerk win their Olympic gold medals, and seeing the South African rowing team win their Olympic gold medal, to seeing Sia lift the World Cup trophy twice. Let's stand up for our country. Let's make a decision to actively partake in our country's future. So much has been done for us to be here today. And I understand that the current political climate makes us feel depressed and hopeless. But that's a decision we make. It's our responsibility to write the next chapter of the South African experiment and make it successful. That's on us. Let's let our voices be heard. And not in a superficial way, but in a real way that means something. Let's let load shedding become a Halloween tale that we tell to our kids. And a tradition where we switch off all the lights, We can make a better future for ourselves. We don't have to sit with these problems constantly. Because by the estimates, in 2030 our country is going to be in a really bad space. And if we as a youth don't make the decision now to fix it, it might be too late. So it's time for us to step up and take control of our futures as a country, united by one goal: a better future for all of us. And like Mandela said, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Comment, subscribe, like, share it. The goal is to start bringing new conversation to our generation. So welcome to the community. I hope you stay, and let's see what we can do with good conversation and how we can impact this amazing world.